Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Today, let me show you some things that you might not know that you can do in numbers. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 800 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you can read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So let's start off with stock quotes. Stock quotes have been around for a while in numbers, but some people still don't know they're there. All you need to do to get a stock quote is use the stock function. Just give it the symbol like AAPL for Apple and you get the previous market day's close for that stock. So it's not alive to the minute stock value. It's just a daily value. If you look at the function help for stock, you'll see there's a lot more that you can do with it. In addition to price, you can get things like change, open, high, low, market cap, volume, yield, all sorts of things. Also, there's a stock H function to give you stock history. So in addition to the stock value and what you want, like close or open or volume, you also give a date. Make sure it's a date that the market was actually open, so not a Saturday or Sunday or holiday. Now you can also do currency conversions. So you can use the currency function to convert from one currency to another. So in this case USD for US dollars to EUR or euros. And it shows that one US dollar is 0.82 euros, accurate to the current day. If you look at the help here, you'll see that the values come from Yahoo Finance. So if you don't know the correct three letters to use for a currency, go to the Yahoo Finance website and look it up there. Same thing for stocks. If you need to get some sort of fund or a foreign stock, find out how Yahoo Finance represents that stock and use that same thing in the stock or stock H function. There's also, as you can see here, a currency convert function. That one takes a value that already has a currency in front of it, like this one here, euros, and it converts it to another currency, USD, here, and it gives us our $1 back. Now a lot of people don't know that you can also work with durations in numbers. Durations are represented with a single letter to represent the unit. So 4H38M is 4 hours 38 minutes. You could add and subtract durations. So you can add these two durations together to get 7 hours and 23 minutes. Here we're adding 3 weeks, 2 days, 17 hours plus 10 days and 10 hours to get 4 weeks, 6 days, 3 hours. You notice that this is just simple addition here. No special functions are needed. And to create these durations you just need to type them exactly like this. Type 4H space 38M and you'll get a duration. Now you can also subtract dates to get a duration. It doesn't make sense to add dates, but it does make sense to subtract them. So if you subtract June 4th, 2021 from March 28th, 2021, you get a duration value, 68 days. Here I'm subtracting now, which is a function that will return the time right now, from June 5th, 1975, and I get 16,687 days. So if that's your birthday, that's how old you are in days. Now you can also add and subtract durations from a date. So you can take a date like March 28th, 2021, add 10 days to it. Just simple addition, no function needed, and you'll get the date that's 10 days from that current date. There are some special functions though to deal with work days. Work days would be weekdays, basically not including the weekends, but you can also exclude certain holidays. So between January 1st and December 31st, there are 261 work days. This function is 3 words, net work days, not network days. And you can see here it takes a start date and end date, but also a list of excluded dates. So these would be the extra holidays. It uses a range for that. So for instance in the example here you could see it's taking 2 cells there that include 2 different dates to exclude. But you can create a whole little table with all of your company's holidays and then include that in here as a range, and it would also exclude those dates. Now the workday function, which you can see here, that will allow you to take a date, add a certain number of work days to it to give you the final date. So in other words, 10 work days from March 1st is March 15th. And you can also include extra holidays in here just like with net work days. Now there are 2 different ways to get random numbers in numbers. One is to use the rand function, which gives you a floating point value between 0 and 1. But you can also use rand between and give 2 values and it would give a number, in this case between 1 and 6. Now these numbers will change every single time you change a cell in the table. It recalculates everything, which means generating new random values. But you could always select a cell, copy it, and then paste formula results to make that number permanent. Now here's a really interesting function, Roman. That will convert a regular number to Roman numerals. So 378 is CCCLXXVIII. 2021 is MMXXI. Here's an interesting function, hyperlink. Hyperlink allows you to create a link from a bunch of characters. So you can actually combine things and dynamically create links. So in this case I'm going to combine https:// with the value of this cell and then append a slash there and then the value of this cell. And then I'm going to give it the text of link with an exclamation point. So you can see here this is what it looks like. And if I click on that it will launch the browser and go to that page. I can now change this link by changing one of these two values here. Here's another example. I can create a hyperlink that goes to the Google Finance page for a stock. And all it's doing here is inserting the value of this cell here. The rest of this is just taken by going to Google and looking at how their finance page URLs are formed. I also then take the same value there and attach the word stock info to it to make the text. So here I've got a nice link that goes to Google Finance for Apple stock. If I change this to something else then this link would go to that stock. You can get the most common value in a set by using mode. So in this case here at the bottom I've got example data and I've got in this first column here a bunch of numbers just between 1 and 6. So mode is taking the entire column A there and it's telling me the most common value found there is 2. You can also get the rank. So the rank will take a look at all the values there and tell you where a specific value is ranked. So in this case it's looking at column B and the first value and saying where that ranks in all the values. So here you can see I've got all these values here in column B. The first one is 550. So 550 actually ranks 7th. It's the 7th largest value in that set of values. Numbers can also do conversions. So you can just use the convert function and then a variety of different units. So in this case taking the number 100 and converting it from miles to kilometers gets me about 161 kilometers. Here I'm converting 24 degrees Celsius to Fahrenheit and here I'm converting 8 cups to gallons. If you look at the help here for the convert function you'll see all the different units and exactly how to represent them. And there are a ton of different things from distance to energy to speed. All these different things that you could use to convert from one unit to another. So here's some more math. You have the least common multiple and the greatest common divider. So here between 18 and 12 the greatest common divider is 6. And between 8 and 6 the least common multiple is 24. And you see you include a range here. So my range just says 2 values. But you can have a set of 20 values and it will still find the least common multiple or greatest common divider in that set. Here's the choose function. This allows you to show a value based on a little list of values. So here I have the planets. And I'm looking at this value here 4. The 4th value in this list is Mars. If I were to change this to 5 it would change to Jupiter. I've actually made this the cell format stepper with a minimum of 1 and the maximum of 8. So I can increase or decrease this to get a value that's here. Now to create a link what you do is select text inside of a cell. Then you can go to Format and then Add Link, Edit Link, or Remove Link here or just Command K. You can link to a web page. You could start an email from a link, but you could also in Numbers link to a sheet. So you can have a link like this that goes to a sheet. You can see my second sheet here is called Data. If I click on this link it jumps to the data sheet. So if you had a summary sheet at the beginning and then you had a whole bunch of different sheets with a bunch of data on them you could include handy links to jump to the proper sheet so you could quickly get to that set of data. Now some other things about sheets. You can name sheets. I still see a lot of people that have sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3. But if you click on this little button here for sheets you can rename a sheet and call it whatever you want. So come up with a descriptive name that will help you find what you need inside of your document. And when you go to a sheet like this one you click here and then you say Show Sheet Options. You go to the Format sidebar. One of the things you can do in the Format sidebar is set a background color for the sheet. That could really help you differentiate the different types of data. As a matter of fact you can even use that same color maybe in cells here to make it easier to visualize where all your data is stored inside the document. Notice you can also jump to a table in a sheet. So I can click here to jump to sheet 1 but I can click here and it shows me all the tables in the sheet. So if I want to jump right to the part of the sheet that has the example data table I click here. It opens up that sheet and jumps right to example data. Now here's something that's pretty cool. You can have fractions inside of numbers. So here I've got what you would expect. Decimal places 0.5, 14.125. I could actually show those as fractions. you don't use functions at all. It's not even a formula. It's a format. So here I have exactly the same values, but instead I have them shown as fractions because under Format, Cell, I've chosen the data format fraction. And I could set an accuracy or lock it into quarters or eighths or sixteenths or something like that. And you can see it represents this as 1/2 for 1/2. It represents 14.125 as 14 and 1/8. So a few more tips. One is that you might know that you can resize a column by dragging the line in between. But you can have a column width be automatically set to the size of the data in it by double clicking that line. And you can see how it snaps to the size that's needed. You can transpose a table. Let's look at this sample data here. I can select this table here, go to Table, and at the bottom transpose rows and columns. And you can see how it's going to switch the rows and columns in that table. It's really handy for when you entered a bunch of data in and realize you've kind of done it in the wrong way. Now getting around in a large table can be difficult, but if you have a keyboard that has the page up, page down, home, and end keys, you can use those to get around. But of course most keyboards, especially MacBooks, don't have these keys. But you actually still have them. You just need to use the FN key. FN and down arrow is page down. FN and up arrow is page up. FN and the right arrow is end. And FN and the left arrow is home. So that makes it much easier to jump around in a large sheet. You may already notice that when you select a bunch of cells, at the bottom you'll get some quick calculations. Like here's the sum, here's the average, the minimum, maximum, and the count, the number of cells selected. But there's a little button over here. Click that and you have a whole bunch of different functions that you could add to this list. So for instance, if you wanted to add the median value, you can simply click there like that. Then the median value is shown here. You can also uncheck some of these if you don't need to see those and make more room. So this just scratches the surface. I'm not really big into statistics and I'm definitely not that knowledgeable about financial things. And there are a whole bunch of different functions that allow you to calculate interest rates and earnings and things like that. So take a look through all the functions in the functions help, especially in the finance and statistics categories, to find out more things that you can do. So one final thing I want to show you, and that's how I do this column here that shows the formula. You can see here's the formula in this cell and I have that represented here. I'm using the FORMULATEXT function for that. Use FORMULATEXT, give it a cell, and it will show a text representation of the formula that's in that cell. It makes it really easy to do tutorials like this or in any situation where you want to visually see the formula that you're using. I'll be sure to include this entire number spreadsheet with this post at MACMOST.com so you can check out all of the different functions and how they're set up. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.